All right, we are back for another episode of Buzzwords, and today's buzzword is velocity. And I think most people can appreciate this one because everything is going so fast in all of the AI and tech and marketing. The whole world is just moving really, really quickly. So this is a great buzzword for this episode because it's starting to bring a lot of the things that we've been talking about and all the other buzzwords together. Last episode was convergence. So that's literally the combining of technologies and the convergence of all these things happening. Now, velocity, we're talking about the speed. And the speed is something that is probably, it's profound enough of a technology, artificial intelligence, but there's been technologies in the past. Let me change my color of my light here so I don't look too pink. There we go. And what's happening, what's so unique about technology changing? Just think of how profound like cell phones were and the internet. And nothing that has changed the world has happened so quickly. This is all within the last 3 to 5 years. We're talking a disruption of millions and millions and millions of jobs, a technology that is like solving problems at a rate that when you look at it on a chart, it looks like it's just going completely straight up at a 90-degree angle. It's changing, and it's also changing every single industry. Something that I would say it's fair to say that the internet changed the majority of industries, but there was a lot of untouched industries, even with the internet. A lot of physical businesses that just didn't even start using the internet because they didn't see a need of it. Maybe they were an agricultural business and they just supplied product to another company. AI, though, is like a whole nother wheelhouse because it actually converges the online world with the physical world. So we're talking AI in robotics, in cars, vehicles, transportation, logistics, municipal logistics, like how you architect a city, how you build out new roads, traffic patterns, housing, housing infrastructure, all the healthcare advantages, not just the technology side, but the detection side, the image analysis, and then the entire entertainment world, right? So videos, photos, marketing, advertising. It's just unbelievable. So velocity is really where this is just peaking out so darn fast, and it's changing. And there's so many new things that are happening also quickly that it makes us in the industry feel like we can't keep up. So I couldn't imagine what people who aren't in the industry they're just seeing these literal buzzwords in the press, and they're seeing really famous people talk on TV, heads of companies, and they don't even know really the implications of what's happening. So let's just dive right in with some really big stories that have happened in just the last week or so, or even 2 weeks. So in the news, Anthropic, which we've talked about in the past, hits $30 billion of revenue per year, triple in one quarter. $9 billion is what they were making in 2025. So they've tripled that, and which is just enormous. It just gives them more opportunities to take advantage of other technologies. And so we're going to see what's going to happen with them. Google's in talks with Marvell to build inference AI chips, challenging NVIDIA. That actually just came out in the news even I think yesterday. So our whole agenda pulls on a Tuesday. Today's Thursday. I think it was like yesterday where they really started to share more information about this, where they're going to be creating their own chips. Google AI Max for search out of beta, legacy DSA tools depreciated September. That just means that any of the Google ad management tools, if you ever run a Google ads as a business, those are all changing, and they're all pushing towards this Google product, which is their AI technology and how to display ads, how to fine tune them, best ways to find your audience and the affinity groups that they're attached to, things that they're interested in. And then you got Canva AI 2.0 launches with agentic orchestration, memory library, bunch of new features. So we're going to look at that. 94% of enterprises report AI agent sprawl as governance lags adoption. So that's saying basically the private sector is jumping right in. Are you, is a big question that I have for our local businesses. How much AI are you using in your business? And I'm not talking about it just drafting like an email to somebody or a response to somebody. We're talking real AI services to create efficiencies in your business, because 94% of large enterprises are already incorporating major milestones of AI technology. But the government, very slow to adopt it, which is, I guess, a good thing, because they want to make sure that it is functioning at a high enough accuracy rate. But at the same time, I think we can all agree that the government makes a lot of mistakes. And so, if AI can help reduce costs and reduce taxes and create expediency in things like healthcare and taxes and like getting things back faster, then I think that we should all start pushing our political leaders into adopting AI a little bit quicker. They have been really progressive about the data centers. And so we are seeing that. And we heard a lot of news recently about them using it in wartime technology. So there is that. But what about how it can help the everyday person just kind of, getting basically, when you look at the federal programs of healthcare and Medicare and the vets, that's another big one where you hear those horror stories about VA assistants just being completely either slow, non-existent, or inaccurate. Social Security, a complete nightmare, going into debt. These are things where AI could just immediately get on these and solve these big problems that we have that will benefit the total population. So I think that that's a big topic, but we could talk about it all day. That could be its own episode, but that's something that's recent in the news. They did a study, Business Wire did. Then we got Sundar Pichai, which is the Google, I believe, CEO. Search is evolving into an AI or an agent manager, not search engine. So what does that even mean, right? It means that instead of you going and onto a search engine and searching for something, the future actually is going to be you asking your agent to go do it for you. And I think that that's something that people don't quite understand is going to happen. I think we got a taste of it with Siri and Alexa, right? But they were really more about asking and answering. Unless you did use Siri or Alexa to actually take action, oh, hey, put this in my calendar, remind me this, send a text to so and such. Those were kind of that part of orchestration of service. AI is a whole nother level of it. So now, instead of it just being a simple task or asking a question or what the weather's like or things like that, people are going to be asking it to do things on their behalf, like, hey, look up the best school in our area and get my kids registered for them for this coming year. It'll have the information and the ability to do that, all of it. Fill the whole thing out, submit it online application. You order a pizza, instead of you going to the app on your phone to go to their app and look it up and go in and log in and remember your password and look through all their specials, you're going to just say, hey, AI agent, order the same thing I got last time from, Papa Murphy's or Pizza Hut or Domino's or whatever that business is that you order something from, and it already knows what you like, and it's already seen your, the receipts in your email, from these places that you're ordering at. And maybe you say, oh, and actually, hey, order almost the same thing, but I don't want pepperoni on half of it. I only want, green onion. And it'll make the modification, confirm it with you, and it will go into the app. It'll go into the website. It'll place the order. It'll put in your billing information. It'll log in. It'll let you know that it's completed when it's done. So I think that that's what what Sundar is saying. He sees that being the future. And you know what the truth is a lot of people are seeing that as the future. So it's not just him. I think that he's quicker to acknowledge it, because I think that people at Google want to believe that there's still a place for search, and they're trying to make sure that they don't, that things don't shift too quickly, because that is their primary revenue base, is search advertising revenue. IAB, search ad growth slows as social and digital video accelerate. We just kind of gave that some foresight. Still, ways of discovery are happening in social, right? So if search volume goes down, where you're trying to look up where a good place to eat is near you, or what a good plumber near you is, what's happening is people are going on social to do discovery search, to look up these topics and find local businesses and evaluate those businesses on their social footprint on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, wherever it may be. So digital video acceleration makes sense as well, because that's, of course, a form of content that people create. And we're, of course, seeing AI also getting to that and kind of dig into the video part. Puma debuts an AI digital human. That's weird, although predicted by a lot of people. Gary Vaynerchuk talked about the idea of basically IP AI avatars. IP being intellectual property. So you could create your own AI avatar and then have it be your almost like your icon of your business or the person of your business that's doing all this stuff. They don't age, they don't get sick, they don't call out, they don't have they don't have a reason not to be able to appear in something. And then all like, for example, like, oh, hey, we need some footage out in Flagstaff. Like, oh, they don't have how are they going to get up there? Their car's broken. There's none of that friction part. So all of a sudden you can, using AI, have your personality that you've created do anything, go anywhere, and at volume and scale, which means, you could be producing 100 videos in a day versus maybe one video in a day. So there's a volume and scale thing. But we've all been kind of waiting until it's real enough to where we don't have that feeling of like, oh, this is fake, it's artificial. So Puma is obviously attempting to do this. ESPN reveals football creator network ahead of 2027 Super Bowl. They're trying to get basically influencers out there and football influencers out there to start the tailgating prior to the Super Bowl in 2027. So they're already thinking of ways and angles that they can play in creating awareness. Samsung teases Project Luna, an AI robot concept with round screen. So again, just another company adopting AI and how it can bring AI into the physical world and make it productized. So these are some of the headlines that have been happening over just the last couple of weeks. And we're on velocity, so things are going really fast. So talk about velocity, right? So Anthropic, 30x its revenue in 15 months. Google is already deprecating old search tools and moving into an AI age of ads. Canva just shipped 9 new AI features, all happening really quickly. And then Sundar, of course, is saying, hey, I think people are going to be using their agent to search instead of them searching themselves. And so that's 58% of searches end with no click. People aren't clicking to get more information. They're getting the information so they don't need to click. And we talked about that on convergence on last episode, but now we're getting even more and more insight, and certainly from CEOs of big companies. All right, rock and roll. Last week we talked about convergence, merging of two things. Now we're going to be talking about velocity and the speed of which things are happening. Question to ask yourselves is, how many tools in your marketing belt, your stack, have you added AI features to in the last 90 days? So like, are you using AI to help with bookkeeping? Are you using AI to help with dispatching? Are you using AI to help with communication to clients, customers, vendors? Are you using AI to help with customer support, customer service? That's something that you need to ask yourself is, what are you doing now? What type of services are you using? And on a scale from 1 to 10, how confident are you that your business is keeping up when it comes in terms of pace with the AI tools that are coming and the changes that are happening? So, scale from 1 to 5, 1 to 10, 1 to 5, like, are you confident that you're keeping up with your competitors and what's happening in this space? So, fastest revenue ramp in enterprise software history, Anthropic. That in the headline is the story, right? No one's ever gone from accelerated at that rate. And the question is why? And it really, what it comes down to is that all of the tools in their suite of things and code, and that they're offering their services to Perplexity, are applicable to so many industries, which we talked about just a couple minutes ago. These things are ubiquitous across every category, and because of that, enterprise and consumers are using it. So it's extremely wide net. And because of the wide net and a non-ad based service, which means they are not like Facebook that's giving away a free thing and getting a user base this huge, which was probably one of the fastest user bases growth ever, but they weren't a revenue growth. Instead, Anthropic is charging. It's pay to play. You want to use our service, you pay us. And because they were able to cast such a large net with so many different industries on an enterprise level first, consumer level second, but enterprise was really their big goal, and they charged for services, they ramped up their revenue like nuts. And of course, it's a great product that helps. And they were in the news a lot, which actually creates a lot of adoption and people trying them. And once you try it, you will never go back to not using something like it, at least. And as long as they continue to stay leading edge, rolling out features constantly, you will always use it. And as long as they keep the affordability, at a fair level, it is something that'll change the way you do things permanently. And I think that that's really how they got so fast. They added $11 billion in annualized revenue in 1 month, which is just crazy. That's just like never happened ever. It's larger than the entire Atlassian's entire annual revenue. So in 1 month, they like beat out a huge enterprise software tool company in a whole year. I mean, that's just insane. Google's inference specific TPUs. So TPUs are very similar to GPUs. So people know GPUs from gaming and things like that. TPUs are basically a version of that. I'm not really sure what the difference is other than a GPU technically stands for a graphic processing unit. I'd have to look it up. I think TPU is probably transformer processor, or let me see what that stands for really quick. What does TPU stand for? Thermoplastic polymer? No. That's like stuff for cases. Let me see. So look at that. It's like not even giving it as a result in terms of processor. There we go. A tensor processing unit. So it's really more based, it looks like training on inference and deep learning. Unlike general CPU or GPU, graphic-focused ones, TPUs are systolic array architecture. This allows them to perform vast amounts of matrix multiplication and addition operation simultaneously, which are foundational for neural networks. So it's more of a neural network thing, and they're already being used to power Google services like their search, photos, maps, and translate. So they really are about speed and complex operations. So I guess that makes perfect sense that they'd be doing this. So really, another cool one, Meta Muse Spark Frontier return after Llama 4 rocky debut. Meta Superintelligence Labs just released Muse Spark, Meta's first direct frontier model. Separate from Llama open source line, Meta is now running 2 AI strategies simultaneously. Open source Llama, which most people recognize Llama. Every time you go on like Facebook or Instagram or whatever, and you try to use any of their AI tools, it's using that Llama is that engine that's creating those, I think, kind of crappy looking posters, and they all look the same. I mean, they wouldn't be crappy if it was 5 years ago and no one was using them, and it actually would look like a graphic designer did it. But they're all almost the exact same. They use a lot of gradients and shading and shadows and weird pixelations and similar font styles, and with serif cursive looking italicized fonts and stuff. But that's that engine. So that's an open source model. Frontier sounds like it's going to be a lockdown model, which they're calling Muse Spark. So I'm kind of interested to see what's going to happen there. And that is, they brought over the guy from Scale AI, who was the CEO, Alexander Wang, who's a really young guy. I listened to a podcast with him on it a couple months ago, and really young dude, really smart guy. And he's now helping run this Meta Superintelligence division. So we'll I'm guessing we're going to see them contend pretty heavily against the other big guys. So again, the big guys, Gemini, which is Google, OpenAI, which is GPT, ChatGPT, all those models. And then Anthropic is like the Claudes and the Sonnets. Those are really the biggest. Grok, of course, is big as well. We didn't talk about that a lot lately because Grok is slightly behind still, although I think that they will do a big leap and bound when they have their Colossus cluster up completely running. They also, I believe, are acquiring some other AI firm. I can't remember which one, but because Colossus is like a couple 100,000 graphic processors, GPUs. And so once that's up and running completely on the newer models, I think you're going to see them competing really heavy against everybody else. But so yeah, those are all the models. So we'll see what happens as they all are racing again, velocity to be the number one or number two. They want to be the one that people are using. So a lot of things have happened just in the last few weeks. Canva Pro adding in the AI services, which it basically will converse with you about your design on the canvas. It'll help you decide on fonts and colors and layouts on your behalf. It'll remember the library and what things are and which project. That's pretty cool. I didn't know that it did that. It'll remember like what asset you used in what project. Integrates directly with Anthropic and OpenAI APIs. And I will confess, I actually used that yesterday. I did not know they had a direct integration, though. I was using Claude in the browser to make text changes on a menu, a restaurant menu. So it was a restaurant menu that was originally designed in Photoshop, Adobe product, manually, which is really the way everything was designed at one point. And then Canva allows it to be. So now, let's say I passed off this graphic to a client who's a restaurant owner. They would have no idea what they're doing on changing anything on the graphic. So they'd have to constantly be getting back to me. But Canva's got simple enough tools that a lot of clients that have items that change frequently will design the actual design in Photoshop, but then will go into Canva and basically replicate the design so that way they can make the changes themselves. So I was working on father-in-law helping me with a washing machine, and I had a client from Havasu. Everybody knows Desert Storm is happening this weekend. I'm going to try to put this episode out pretty quick, so you'll get this episode as it's happening. And I get a text like, "Oh gosh, we forgot to change some pricing on our event menu for Desert Storm and add some new menu items and take off some old ones. I forgot to get to this to you." And I was like, "Oh shoot, I'm in the middle of helping my father-in-law with the washing machine." So I went into my computer, brought up the file on Canva, went to Claude, activated the Claude chat, and basically pasted all of the changes that he asked me to do into Claude and said, "Hey, I have a file open in Canva in this browser called such and such. Make the changes that were requested." And I pasted them in, and then I went back outside into the garage where the washer dryer is. And about 20 minutes later, and they weren't that many changes, but it does take a little bit longer, but that's okay. I went back in and they were all done. And so that was kind of, for me, I've had it do tasks. I've had Claude do stuff in browsers, but never inside of a Canva graphic program file and clicking and editing on that canvas. It was really cool. And it saved me probably 15 minutes, where it would have been 10, 15 minutes worth of work, but it saved me that time that I didn't want to use right then doing that. So that was really cool. So now they actually have a deeper integration, probably APIs that connect it, and you can just probably be inside of Claude and it'll just go in on the back end without opening up the browser, I'm guessing, or it opens up its own browser. Search growth we just talked about in Puma. All right, signal quality beats signal volume. What does that mean? Platforms move on from likes. No longer do likes matter as much as engagement. And that is hard to tell people, because right now Instagram is pushing heavy on carousels for engagement, reels for reach, which means just keeping people entertained, but carousels to have deeper meaning of your content, which is what creates that engagement. So if you are not working with carousels on Instagram, and you should be doing it Facebook too, because again, that's the same company. I'm sure they're going to start weighing it again on Facebook. You need to be. And don't be afraid of using scheduling platforms. The CEO came out and said, "Hey, we don't penalize for using scheduling platforms. In fact, we find that it helps more content hit our platform when we can allow that type of thing happening, because people want to be organized and plan things out, and they can put out more volume of stuff when they're organized versus getting so busy where you forget." So we've been using scheduling platforms for a decade. If you're one of our clients, or if you ever want to be one, we use scheduling platforms so that we can post to multiple platforms at the same time and give our clients access to seeing graphics before they go out so they can make adjustments. So that's really cool. LinkedIn, content quality, early engagement, first 60 minutes. So follower counts, says top signals, follower counts for reach. So they still have a good follower metric for organic reach. So it is still good that people will get good, valuable content from your page on LinkedIn, and they will then follow you, so that when you do post things within that first 60 minutes of it posting is usually the determiner of if the quality of the content is good. So that's LinkedIn. So remember, LinkedIn wants quality over quantity, and then they want the people to engage with your page so that they follow your page, so that they are notified the next time you put out a piece of content. TikTok discovery from non-followers and completion rate rewatch. TikTok is now favoring new audiences, not just followers. Again, you're seeing this trend. LinkedIn kind of still sticking with it, but that's a B2B community, so it is a lot different. TikTok, Instagram, they don't care about your followers. I hear it too often. People are like, oh, I don't have very many followers. It doesn't matter. What matters is you put out content on a regular basis that adds value to people's lives. The value could be humor. The value could be education, which they are weighing, which is one. If you go back a few episodes ago, I don't remember which one it was, but we talked about that. That was another Instagram thing where they are no longer rewarding virality and trends. They're rewarding or trends that will create that virality. The virality is not happening anymore with the trends. They're looking for original content and they're looking for educational content. So they're actually changing a lot of how they influence non-followers to see your content as long as you're providing it. Reddit, community voting, genuine trust signals. So people will vote on things whether they like it. It's kind of like a like. They'll vote, they'll upvote it basically saying like, ooh, this is a good article, you should read it. Organic content outperforms branded posts consistently. So when you're creating content on Reddit, you want it to be from a business without business branding as much, or from a consumer or a person talking about a business. So kind of a trick that I heard the other day from someone who's like really a Reddit specialist is they'll put out a kind of a controversial like question or angle about something like, are you having trouble using QuickBooks? It's got this one feature that can send your business into an audit. And then they'll talk about like some problems that people have had in this like thing, and they'll create a dynamic conversation that will start happening. And then what they do is then they go back in like a day or two later, if it's gotten some good votes, as like, ooh, this is a good topic, this is a good discussion. And they'll change the title of that and they'll say, QuickBooks alternative, use Xero. And they get paid an affiliate commission off the Xero, and they add the link into the article. So once it starts getting momentum, it'll keep on getting shown to new people. And you can then, after it's found its kind of tracking, then you can go in and adjust some language on it so that you can promote your brand and also add in links and answer comments and questions and reply to people, engage in that conversation, which is another indicator. So that's kind of a cool little strategy tip. 2026 universal shift. So universal across social media. Predictive behavior modeling replaces reactive engagement tracking. Dwell time, completion rates. I don't know why I'm so thirsty. I think it's really dry today. I don't know, windy and dry. I think it's all the pollen that's dusting around everywhere. Completion rate. So that's like watching the video all the way through. Profile visits now outweigh raw likes. Algorithm detects and penalizes duplicate derivative formats at scale. AI generated content deprioritized versus authentic engagement signals. Ooh, are you putting out a lot of AI slop? Are you a local maybe flooring place that every single post is just generated by some AI tool and they all look the same? You are going to start finding major deprioritization of your page, and that can literally take you down to almost zero, where no one's going to see it unless they try to seek you out on your page, because it will be not shown in the feeds. Stop using AI to create the content. Use AI to assist you in creating the content. Very big difference. But for those that think they just somehow got the A, B, left, right cheat code on the game, and they can just pump out all this crappy AI slop, and then you're not going to have to pay a graphic designer. You're not going to have to sit there and design something yourself. If you think that it is a free, cheap, easy way, and it's a cheat code, you don't think that everybody else is going to think the same thing and they're going to be doing it. And you don't think that then the consumers, the viewers of the pages are going to get really bored of it. And you don't think that the platform's going to say, shoot, we got to get rid of this stuff, or we're going to lose our viewers to some other platform that comes out that only has human-based content, and then it's required that they be verified, or they can't share anything, and they can't share anything from, they can't post anything with AI. We're going to lose everybody to these guys. We need to make sure we nip this quick. That is what is happening. So red flag warning to everybody doing the AI slop. Stop the slop. In fact, I like that. I'm going to make a shirt that says stop the slop. Hopefully people understand what I'm saying. Okay. And so, yeah, and these are from a couple different sources. Hootsuite. Hootsuite is one of the largest publishers of social content. You can attach multiple accounts. You can publish it. This is they're seeing millions of accounts, millions of pieces of content going out, millions of metrics. This is the data sources that we're pulling from when we pull these agendas together. And if you ever are questioning any of the stuff that is in our podcast, let us know. We'll shoot you the article. We don't want our slide decks necessarily out there for everybody to take and put them out. Maybe they'll try to sell them somewhere. I don't know. But if you want to link to some of these analytics because you're really interested in diving deep, shoot us a message, comment on it. We'll send you the links to some of this stuff. It's really interesting. So again, this is a CEO saying, hey, I don't think people are going to be searching in the future. I think it's going to be changing. And we're seeing some results already. So traditional search down 38%. AI chat discovery up 38%. Social search up 24%. So declining B2B first touch, let's start with traditional, is AI overviews. 13 to 18% of queries are seeing that AI overview and immediately trying to click there, which is causing a 30 to 6% click-through rate reduction on the affected keywords. What does that mean? It sounds kind of weird. Okay. I go into ChatGPT and I say, best local electrician in Kingman. So the keywords are really, it's best electrician Kingman. So it's giving kind of, like an adjective, a noun, and then a location noun or pronoun, where it's trying to put these together. And then ChatGPT, or you went into Google, let's say you're doing it in Google just because they use Gemini in the overviews, and you're trying to look for a local business, and you still have that bias that Google's the only one that's going to give you that local search really, really well. What happens is the AI overview comes up after it's done its job looking and scouring the internet and using all the Google signals, like Google Business Profile, like YouTube channels, like how many reviews and quantity reviews, how recent are your reviews, is best electrician mentioned in the reviews, is best electrician mentioned on other websites other than your own, is best electrician being cited on your social media. It does all this analysis, right? It gives the map pack, we call it, which is those links at the top of the map, but then it gives an overview, an AI overview, and it just pretty much takes about 3 of the top and gives recommendations and gives you the why, and then underneath that, the organic results. Well, what's happening is that AI overview is 13 to 18% of queries. AI overview, so that's showing up 13 to 18% of the time. And what's happening is that they're seeing the information and they're just immediately just calling the person, or maybe it's just a question and answer thing, like, what temperature does water boil? And they're not clicking to the source. They're not clicking, which is the CTR, click-through rate, to the actual website of where the data came from. In our last episode, I talked about this a little bit, about how publishers are the ones that are actually suffering the most if they depend on traffic to their site to monetize, to make money. Luckily with the B, we don't. All of our news stories are actually just to keep our community informed and have a high volume of authority in news, which is when people look for news stories, they know that they can count on us to have a lot of them, versus if people don't go to our website, we don't exist. So we don't have that model. Our model is actually to work with businesses and help them with their marketing and their advertising and their websites. And the B is just there as this influencer page, whether it's on social or it's an influencer on authoritative traffic as the website, but not dependent of. But a lot of publishers out there are dependent of, and they also pay a lot for the content on their page. They have reporters out in the field. They are paying Associated Press fees to get other stories from outside of their area or their market. If they lose traffic to their site, they lose impressions to their advertisers, banner ads and mentions, and all of a sudden they can't pay for the news. So what's happening is these scrapers for all these LLMs, these search engine AI companies, are grabbing all this information, and then it's not actually ending with someone on their website. They're just grabbing the information, like, oh, I saw smoke in Butler, Arizona today, or South, Northern Kingman today. Oh, and then boom, it's grabbing from a B press release from the fire department. But instead of it saying, click over to read the whole story, it's just giving the summary of what happened, and the person doesn't need to click anywhere. They got it in the overview. So that's what's happening there. AI chat discovery. Chat GPT, Claude, Perplexity, 6-minute sessions. That's a lot of time when you're talking to a chat about something. 23-word queries and 2.8 times higher conversion than traditional search. So that's also really good. Instead of someone sitting there digging through all the different links, they're trusting the AI and not having to do so much searching for the right answer. And so they are believing this to be true. And so they're getting a higher conversion on those ones that are the ones that are showing up in that overview, which is, again, goes back to the point of you need to have a strong AI overview strategy, which is a GEO or AEO strategy, not just SEO. And if you don't know what these are, go back to our older episodes or work with us. Send us a message. We love working with businesses, certainly when they don't know these things, that we can help them stay ahead of it, which is not easy to do, certainly because of the velocity, buzzword, of what's happening in the market. Okay. Next up, social search, TikTok, Reddit, YouTube, primary search channel for Gen Z and millennials, and it's growing faster. 24% of all the search is happening on social. All the search. So people are going to social and they're searching for a good restaurant in Phoenix. I'm traveling to Vegas. What's the best sushi place in Vegas? They're using social. I was in a training down at the Bullhead Area Chamber of Commerce a few years ago, and there was about 60 business owners or managers that were part of this training. It was called Social Masterclass or something like that. And one big part of what I was talking about was reviews and like how important reviews play in search. Okay, how people discover restaurants and pro services. They're looking for them, they're finding them, and they read those reviews. And a Gen Zer, so someone who's born or even a millennial, right? From 96 or so up to 2012, he literally asked, well, do you think that reviews even matter anymore? Because don't people just go on social media and try to find out about the business? And he was the youngest one in the whole room. And I said, well, let's find out. I think this is a pretty good demographic of our market, our customer base. So like, everybody put up your hand if you go on Google and look at reviews, or go on Yelp and look at reviews when you're trying to find about a restaurant or a plumber or an electrician or some type of service. Everybody in the room. And he then goes, well, I've looked at them before, but usually I always look at other stuff. And so I'm like, well, hey, in this room, you're the youngest part of the economy for spending. You spend the least amount. These people represent the most spending. These are the most amount of majority of the customers. Now that you just saw that everybody but you put their hand up for reviews, what do you think you should do? And then okay, no, I get it. Now, maybe in 10 years it'll be different, but here we are. We're right in the midst of it all. But his age, they just go to TikTok and they look up stuff. They go to YouTube. They just go elsewhere. They don't use Google as much, just to look up reviews and read reviews, or Yelp, I guess, or TripAdvisor. Okay. Topic targeting. So here's some 4 little strategies around that. Topic targeting, like what type of keywords are you using? Generative engines love subject coverage, which means good information around the keyword that people are searching. Structured and citable content. Go back to our previous episodes. We have one called citability. Immediate answers after headings. AI extracts the structured data. You'll hear the term schema markup. Schema is basically a structure of language that is structured with code wrapping around it that you don't see. It's just in the HTML of the page. But that schema markup is what helps the LLMs, the language models, know what is there, and know exactly what it is there and how it's contextual to the search, and what is the business being mentioned. It knows how to look for it. So having structured content. Brand mentions is a new ranking indicator. It's not no position one in AI answers. There is a cited and not cited brand visibility across the web drives this. So basically, do other websites have you listed? It's an old strategy of SEO. We call it link authority, external link authority. So links from other people to you and you back to them creates this like link authority. So they are saying that is still extremely important, and also having a frequent piece of content out there on your website. If you have a website and you think it's done and good, and you haven't done anything to it in a day, week, year, month, whatever, if you don't think it needs to have fresh content on it, you are wrong and you will lose. It's that simple. These things, the number one, an article or a stat just came out from Neil Patel Digital, which is, he's got one of the largest SEO, AEO, GEO companies in the country. The number one content citable reason over all the other stuff, which means all the other factual consensus, traditional SEO signals, clarity of language, structure, formatting. The number one is freshness and recency. And it's 91% is freshness and recency. Standard old school traditional SEO stuff that you see some of these companies that work with like HVAC companies and pest companies and landscaping companies where they hire this niche marketing company that acts like they know what they're doing with all their SEO stuff. That is at 35% of citability signals for LLMs. So do you want to be 91% or 35%? So that's important. And then track AI search as its own channel. Do you have analytics on your site that is checking this referral traffic? All of my clients do. We look at it monthly to see where is the referral traffic coming from, what's the percentage of organic versus or just organic Google versus organic social versus paid social versus LLMs. I was just with a client yesterday down in Laughlin, the Chamber of Commerce, and we were looking, and already they're being cited in ChatGPT on a regular basis at a decent volume for LLM. So are you paying attention to these things, and how are you measuring whether you're having success at what you're doing or not? You got to have analytics. You got to look at them, or at least you have to receive them. If you don't know how to get them, you got to work with somebody that does, that can let you know when there's things that need to happen to help you rank. You don't want to lose all the traffic, believe me. Okay, so here's a bunch of just other things that are happening out there in the market. Cerebras IPO filing, which is an AI inference chip company going public, which is important because there's two parts of AI that are the bottleneck, and it's energy, like electricity, basically, and there's compute. Those two things. All of the leaders in all these companies don't believe that there's going to be this monumental breakthrough in algorithms. They believe that if there is going to be a breakthrough in algorithms, which would make energy use maybe go lower and compute go lower, it's going to need to get more compute and energy so that it can process more data before it can have that breakthrough. So no matter what, we're at a bottleneck of manufacturing because there's not a whole bunch of chip makers out there in the world. There's only a few. So this is great to see someone else coming into the market wanting to add more compute to the industry. An Anthropic run rate, enterprise AI spend, is wondering if it's a bubble or not. Google deprecating things, we already talked about that. Canva, we talked about. So here's some other ones. SpaceX and XAI IPO timeline mid-year. So if you're a stock person and everything is kind of going crazy right now, seems like we're kind of at an all-time high. SpaceX IPO will be kind of wild because he's planning on getting off Earth and putting power grids on the moon that'll operate data centers and eventually head to Mars from there. But for us, and adding solar to the moon, a lot of people are like, well, how the hell are you going to get electricity from outer space down to the planet? It's not going to be an extension cord. The way it works is that it converts the energy into radio frequencies, basically, a lot like a Yagi antenna that, like, how you can get Wi-Fi internet by having a dish on your house, or even cell phones. Technically, it's transmitting that radio frequency. There is a slight the frequency actually contains energy in it. So there's this technology that literally can take solar energy and convert it into an extremely high power directional radio frequency that then can be almost beamed down to the planet at a receiver end, and then that generates the electricity. It's actually pretty wild, but that is one way to reduce transmission loss, which means basically when you have a power plant and there's so many miles from the power plant to where it's actually going to be used, there's the lines that loses a lot of power. I believe that it's something like 30% loss happens from power transmission lines. And I think it is even higher by the time it actually goes out through an entire community. But there's also obstacles to where you can put power. If you don't have a way, you're always having to wire it, right? So like, let's say we need to open up a military base quickly in a foreign country and there's no power and there's no roads, and we just want to, we need this place, we need this infrastructure here. What are you going to drop generators there and drop oil, try to truck in oil? Well, there's no roads. This gives the ability to just literally drop in people and products and things that they need to build things, and then put the receiving end of the electrical unit and beam the power. So you have unlimited power without any wiring and any fuel. And then you can start building infrastructure around the base. So there's a lot of really cool things with that. So I think that getting on part of that IPO offering, if you can, might be a good opportunity, but not investment advice. Pinterest gets offline campaign, irony of genuine brand strategy. So Pinterest saying, what, take a break from social, and they're a social media company. Obviously, it's a marketing thing. AI agent governance gap, 94% concerned, 12% have centralized approach. People, we just talked about that, where the government is not getting on board quick enough, and we probably should. There's only 12% of government that's kind of in agreement on centralized approaches to this. Samsung Project Luna, AI robot. We're not going to have time to kind of get into that. And then zero clicks, 58% of queries, publishers' revenue crisis deepens. I already talked about that. That's just another one of those things you got to be careful about. Velocity is destroying more businesses than it's creating. That's the contrarian take. What are your thoughts? You can definitely leave a message, leave a comment on here. Every day, every story is framed as progress, but consider when a tool is built your workflow around a deprecated service in 4 months, that's not progress. It's forced basically migration on someone else's timeline. When Canva ships 9 features simultaneously, you're not empowered, you're overwhelmed. And when Anthropic triples revenue by locking enterprises into contracts, those enterprises are not winning. So there's an interesting kind of other side of every what we feel to be a positive thing happening. And there's always another side to things you got to look at. We're curious on what your guys' opinion is on whether you think this is a good thing, a bad thing. You're not sure, you're not informed enough, there's not enough information out there. And then here's some local angles for our area. So basically, when you look at, are you running a Google ad? And if you are, have you started working with the AI tools? Because that old school way is going to go away in September. So the old school way is going away. So are your dynamic search ads running? And you only have a few months, and we're going right into the summer, and that's going to be in the dead of the summer. So we're curious about that. You should really audit your account today if you're not. Sure. AI mode restaurant booking is live globally. Google agentic restaurant bookings completes reservations without leaving Google. And it's live in the US. So if your Google business profile booking link is not active and accurate, AI routes customers to a competitor who is connected. So let me say that again for those out there who take reservations. If your booking link is not set up correctly on your profile, they will push the bookings to a competitor. Okay, I just want to make sure everybody hears that. I come across this quite frequently, that the businesses aren't paying attention to their Google business profile. Their hours are wrong, the links are wrong, the information's wrong, the phone number's wrong, the website's wrong. They have reviews that are not responding to. Very, very bad. So take a look at your Google profile, make sure it's correct. Canva, $13 a month. AI 2.0 is on there. If you're a business in the area, and even having, again, Canva, working with a graphic designer, but having a Canva file so that you can make little edits and things, I think would be hugely beneficial. Do you have something that you're using right now? Pinterest get offline thing equals tourism business gold. I wonder if any, Lake Havasu City, Bullhead City, or even Kingman during the tourism season has thought of trying to create a get off your phone campaign. And I just heard about this business model that started up that was basically, it was like a 2-day or 3-day retreat, and it's like a phones off retreat. So you come in and you put them in a locker, and that's it. You don't have a phone for 3 days, and every day you just are doing activities and team building type of scenarios. And so maybe tourism departments can take that as a hint, where it's like, how can we attract people to get off their phones for just little bits of time and enjoy some of the things that the community has to offer without being on their phones and devices. So that's kind of interesting. And then GEO Audit. When was the last time you looked at all this stuff? Ask ChatGPT. Oh my gosh, ChatGPT. There's too many little names out there. Ask them about your business. Have it look up your business. Like literally search using that chat, Johnny's Pizzeria, Kingman, Arizona, and see what comes up, and start asking it questions. And usually you can even ask it, why aren't I ranking in the top of this? Why are you showing someone else than me? And it will tell you citability, not enough content about you that's cited on other sites, that your site isn't readable or there isn't enough information on your site, it'll start to tell you these things. So definitely do a GEO audit as soon as you can, because the shift is already shifting and there's going to create momentum. And once agents start using LLMs exclusively to get information back to someone who's asking it, hey, what's the best restaurant? And the agent goes out and gets the information for you and says, oh, here it is. Want to book it? You're going to be left behind. All right, last component. Businesses that will lead Q3, Q4 of this year are not the ones that are going to be watching this stuff happen. They're the ones that they ran the audit, they're changing their Google ads, they're using new tools for AI for marketing, they're working with companies that understand this stuff, they're updating their Google business profile, they're making sure things are working correctly there. These aren't big moves, these are tiny moves, but you got to move fast. And the velocity gap is real. And unlike the capability gap, which money can close, the velocity gap closes only one way, and it's you got to move. So this is an opportunity for you. If you're a business out there, search for your business on ChatGPT, Gemini, Copilot, whatever you can, see where you're at and start to ask that AI, how can I create a GEO plan? Or reach out to us, say, hey, I'm interested in being a client with you. I saw your podcast and I think that I can get value out of what you do. You guys seem to know what you're talking about with all these things that I don't know. And we'll set up a consultation and we will show you how it all works and we'll get you set up. There's a lot going on. And I can tell you right now that we have a tool that we built specifically for a lot of this stuff. If you're watching the podcast, you can see on my screen, we got no TiVo. I've been talking about no TiVo for a while. We're seeming to get an adoption rate from outside of our market versus inside the market. I don't know why. Maybe because they're bigger markets and there's more competition and they're more up to date on things that they understand that they need to be doing these things. But we literally have a review management system that's also a GEO optimization system that is so feature packed, and it has every single thing that I talk about built into it. It's $80 a month for the pro, or you can go annually and you save a bunch of money. It's $500 for the year, which is like 40 something a month broken down, but you pay it as a one-time annual clump. You get the pro, you get all of the features. The difference between the pro and the advanced is that it's the quantity of outbound text and emails that you send to solicit for reviews. But that's the only difference. So it's really a volume thing. But for features at the $500 a year level, you're getting every single feature and every single feature that we add. And we've added a new feature every other week for this whole year so far. So we started with just sending and receiving text and responding to reviews and being able to change your Google business profile. Then we added, we have an AI feature now that's going to help you with the reviews and that's going to respond for you. And then we had added another one where you can share the reviews on social media. And we integrated Facebook and Instagram, and we're going to be integrating TikTok soon. And then now we do it automatically for you. You can set it up on a schedule. So it's going to do all these things automatically for you. Then we did a widget for your website where you can share your reviews on a website, and a QR code generator. We have been adding so many features, and we're adding one that's happening tomorrow, which if you see this, you might be seeing it the day that it's coming out. I don't know if I'm going to get it out today, which is Thursday, possibly. Bottom line is we're adding so many cool things. And the one that we're adding tomorrow is one for teams. So if you have a team of people that maybe you're a restaurant, you got 5 servers, everybody can be involved in the collection of reviews. We can track them to the server. We can give them credit. We have a leaderboard that's going to be built in, and our apps have dropped. Apple, iPhone, we have an app that helps you get notified when things are going on, where you can review your stats right from your phone, and also an Android one. And also, how do you do it? Tutorials. We have a robust tutorial knowledge base that I just added the AI. Which one did I just do yesterday? AI agent automation I just completed, and also all of the website parts, because if you don't have a website, there is a way to get a website included again in your plan right through the system. It's just not very custom, but hey, we have something at least available so that for those that don't have one, they're not completely left behind, and it's really, it's no extra cost. So everything has a tutorial how to set it up, and even better, when you're logged in to the platform, So I'm just going to give an example here. I think if I can remember the password, usually it's logged in. So let me just log in. I'll show you what happens. Maybe I won't. Hold on. I think my login goes into the back end on Magic. There we go. Okay. When you get logged in, you basically, and this is all going to be a little bit different tomorrow. We're doing a bunch of enhancements on top of the team component. We're changing some, we call it UI. So we're changing some of the user interface. So it might look a little different. But basically, you can see your stats, you can see where you rank, you can see your performance, you can see the sentiment analysis. You'll have all these things still available. If you're using it on an app, like as an app, you can see that it's all available there. You can send requests and get people to leave you reviews. You can share stuff onto social media. You can add widgets to your website. You can have your own little website if you need one. You can update your Google Business profile. You can now do automated responses to your reviews, which would be like this one. Okay. You can do, we call it the SEO agent, because now Google and the LLMs are scraping social media. We have the social agent. So this one where you can set up so it automatically posts your 5-star reviews to your social. And then we have the new one, the GEO agent we just launched last week. This one you set up and it will actually create GEO schema marked up articles that are about your business based off your Google Business profile, based off of your Google reviews, and it'll create these naturally flowing schema marked up articles. It'll publish them across the platforms. It'll publish them to your website and to a blog page, so that's again indexable by all these search engines and LLMs, all built in. And then starting tomorrow, you're going to have a team manager part where you can add in every single employee or server. They get their own unique QR code. They're working with a customer. Maybe you're a car sales place and you got 5 car salesmen, and they hand that card to them, and that's got their QR code. So when the review is left, if they forgot your name or they forgot the spelling of it or whatever it might be, it tracks it through the system. And there's a leaderboard that's going to be built in starting tomorrow that literally will show, hey, how many people scanned the QR code versus how many left the review, and it will compare it to all the other people working. It's very cool. And we're working right now on our Apple business listing integration as well. Nobody else does that. There's only 33 companies in the entire planet that actually have a native API through the Google business listing. So we've already submitted all of our applications, and we're actually on the last step for completion of it. So we're really excited about that, because that's another, coming September when the CEOs change, we believe that Apple's in a position right now to start making some extreme changes. And I think one of them is going to be, how can Siri get better? What AI are they going to use as the back end, and where are they going to drive their information from? And you're going to find Apple business listings, the businesses on your Apple Maps, are going to become critical for that. And there's a lot of iPhone users out there. And when in September, there's predictions of the iPhone Fold coming out. So they might launch it right at the same time. So we will be poised to have this already integrated within the next month with Apple business listings, so that you are now collecting reviews and updating your information there and posting data to that, so that Siri is going to use that information for responses versus them scraping Google or scraping somewhere else. So big opportunity. Do not sit back and see this. If you are a business owner, if you do not have a review management strategy, do not ignore this, because these prices on my next round of developer updates, which is coming probably by the end of May, these prices are going to almost double, because the cost of tokens and the things that we're going to be creating, we're already doing AI image generation for the blogs. Those things are going to get more complex, certainly as we start integrating TikTok, which I just already had hinted that, we're going to be adding TikTok. We're going to be doing video. So video generation is expensive. So when you get one of these plans, you're locked in. And so the concept is we want to get a lot of people into these plans so that we have a great base. Now that we have the apps in the app markets, now you can't go searching for the Apple one. You got to just click it directly, and you'll be led to the AI spot, which is like right here. So here it is in the Apple Store, and it just kind of shows you basically, everything about it, and you download it right on your phone. We want people to be already into our system, working with it, and being kind of like our founders in a sense. And we've picked up a lot of clients in our Phoenix market, Mesa market, where we have a couple clients, one really big client, which I think a lot of people know. But locally, Mojave County, we can't get anybody to get on here, and none of them are responding to reviews. None of them have an active strategy, and it's a scary thing, because when businesses come into these markets that know what they're doing, they're just going to slaughter all the small guys that are hanging out that don't realize that they need to be doing something. And this is a tool that's affordable. If you don't have $500 a year to literally have all your reviews responded to automatically, send them out to your customers via text or email right from the system, get GEO written articles for you once a week, posted across all these platforms, all your reviews that are positive posted across platforms, then I don't know how you're in business if you can't afford to have something like that happen, because the value exchange is that people are going to finally know you're there. They're the ones that are told, I didn't even know you were there. I've lived here for all my life. It's because they're searching on the internet and they're not finding you correctly, So definitely hit us up on that. We do have a discount coupon, and I don't remember what the discount is, to be honest. I think that it might be 50% off, but use the actually, let's just see what happens when I click it, because it's the coupon is the B. So let me just put in the promotional coupon, there's my caps on, the B, 20% off. Okay, cool. Yeah. So if you're a Chamber of Commerce member, I think you get a bigger one. So if you're a Laughlin Chamber, Kingman Chamber, we have discounts. So 20% off. I believe it's off either the annual and the monthly. So let me just check that really quick. I think I did it off either. Let's just see. Yeah. So you get 20%. So $400 a year. And you can cancel at any time. Like, you get a 7-day free trial and then cancel before it renews, and you'll never have to pay for it again if you don't want to use it, or your business closes for some reason. But anyway, yeah, so that is the opportunity there. So thanks for watching BUZZwords. This was a good hour episode. Again, if you want any of the sources that we pulled this data from, let us know. We'll send you the link. And hopefully you learned something to make your business, take it to the next level, stay in business, not just survive, but thrive and grow your business in this crazy tech world as it's changing through high velocity. Thanks for watching.